I'm making a retro Resident Evil inspired survival horror game called The Revanchist. It's been a few months and I'm getting real close to having a prototype, playtest build up and running. Last time I put together a quick to-do list of a few things that I've got to get done before that'll be ready. That was a little while ago, it's been a minute. How many things have I knocked off that list?
Not fucking many!
Nah, actually a few. Why don't we take a look? First things first, why don't we get to work adding notes to the game? Because after all, is it really a survival horror game if everyone's not constantly writing a journal that they leave scattered somewhere in the world? Nah, but on a serious note, I've got a bit of a flexible rule here that notes kind of have to make sense in-universe, like, why did someone write this down and leave it here? There should be some sort of answer for that. Anyways, notes were actually pretty easy to get up and running. I was expecting a little bit more challenge, especially with adding a files menu in your inventory, but it all went pretty smoothly. It did give me a bit of trouble with, you guessed it, saving. Wouldn't be The Revanchist if things just saved properly from the get-go, but it was a simple fix. But then I had a very new problem. It saved a bit too well. Because you see right now the game only uses a single save file, keeps it simpler to find problems, and when you pick new game, it deletes the file to start over. Except the notes for some reason. In order to reset the notes, you had to completely exit out of the game and relaunch it, otherwise they'd stick around in your inventory. I added a whole bunch of redundancy to make absolutely sure that no data could get through. I deleted the file, made a completely new, fresh save game object, saved that blank save game to a file, then loaded the new blank file, and somehow, the notes found a way to slip past all of that and sneak back in your inventory.
Come on! Thing.
It ended up being another easy fix. There was just an extra copy of the data floating around in the game instance, and it was grabbing from that instead of the save file. No big deal, easy fix. I just thought it was nice for once that I wasn't tearing my hair out because something wouldn't save. This time it's because something wouldn't delete. One other thing worth mentioning is for now the notes are stored in structs. It's perfectly functional, but it makes them really tedious and difficult to work with, so if anyone has any suggestions on a better way to do this, I'm all ears. Okay, up next is the item box. I'll tell you right now, this one didn't go nearly as smooth. First of all, something to bear in mind is the inventory system is literally the first thing I programmed for this game. Before I knew about things like components, interfaces, event dispatchers, or other bare minimum basics. So it's a mess of hard references, dependencies, and more spaghetti than a 70s western. There's so many dependencies, I have to be very careful about actually removing anything, and basically just have to pile more nonsense and redundancies on top of this rat's nest. Can you guess what this complicated mess does? Removes an item from your inventory. That's it, that's the function. So there is a real possibility I go scorched earth on the whole inventory system, but for the purposes of this prototype, I'm leaving it for now. What this all means is adding the item box was a very delicate process and I didn't have a whole lot of freedom in how it all works. To start, I just added a second, infinitely large inventory to the player that can only be viewed by activating the box. Then I added a feature to move an item into the box. It removes the item from your inventory, then adds it to the box's inventory. First problem. If you store a weapon, it stays in your inventory. That's because of how the removal function works for weapons. The fix? More spaghetti for the pile. Now that it removes the weapon properly, we see another problem. It stays in your hands. The cure for this? You best believe it's more spaghetti. Another problem. Because of the way the item remove function works for empty weapons, they still don't get removed properly. That's right, time for more spaghetti. Found a couple of duplication glitches too, and I'll let you guess how I fixed those. But then I noticed something. So the shotgun shells are supposed to stack to 15, but something somewhere is causing them to randomly not stack sometimes. Because inventory space is very limited, this is a critical issue and has to be fixed. Not gonna lie, I was starting to panic a bit. These functions are so tough to figure out, I couldn't track down the issue. Why is it sometimes just not stacking the items? Then I was struck by a sudden realization. The shotgun shells stacked to 10. So the box is done for now. Time for the enemy. So as you probably already know, I have a very basic enemy already programmed. It's a bit too simple though, and not really representative of how the early game enemies in The Revanchist are gonna work, so I decided to start over from scratch. Something worth noting is that the enemies are the only part of the game so far that I've really been following tutorials to build. I've been following the Smart Enemy AI tutorial series by Ali El-Zohiri. For the first iteration of this enemy, I made it through 2 whole episodes of the 23-part series, before trailing off and doing my own thing. This time I made it to part 8 out of 23, so what I have now is a much more robust enemy platform to build off.
I fought mud crabs more fearsome than you.
There's a few things I want out of this enemy for that classic survival horror feel. Number 1, it doesn't have to be very difficult on its own, but it should pose some threat, particularly if the player is careless or panics. Number 2, it should be possible to bait and avoid the attacks with careful movement and patience, but it should still be risky and punish mistakes. And number 3, it should also be possible to run past the enemy without breaking your momentum, but it can't be mindless. This should be the most risky method of dealing with enemies and take careful movement and a good bit of skill to get past without being hit. It's still not where I'd like it to be, but it's close enough for this stage. The big thing is the attacks are all controlled by the animations, from the timing to the hitboxes. For now, I'm using this placeholder art and animations, which means I can't dial in the attacks how I'd like, but I want to see some playtesting first to see how people handle these enemies before getting any deeper into it. To me, they're still way too easy to just ignore and coexist with, but I know exactly how they work, so it's not going to be the same for everyone. And without giving away how they work, not because it's some big trade secret or anything, just because I want proper, fair playtesting when it comes time, I will say it's a lot more complicated than it looks. They have 3 different attacks that are all context sensitive with very little randomness. The enemy tracks a ton of different things, like averaging out your speed and velocity over the last couple of seconds, your predicted location in the next couple of seconds, what direction you're moving relative to it, what direction you're looking, and some other things, and decides intelligently, with a little bit of randomness, how to attack. All this being said, I want to see the way people learn to bully these things when playtesting starts. Okay, I'd say this is enough to scratch enemies off that list. Now I'm on to the secret item on the list, the numbers station. So far, I've barely mentioned the numbers station in these videos, but it's actually very central to the game. It's not just going to pop up as an auditory decoration or a plot device, but it is an actual mechanic that ties into gameplay. So with that, I want to build a completely dynamic system to generate it in real time. One that can run continuously on its own without external input, but that can also take instructions in a smooth and intuitive way. So the good news, the soundtrack manager I made a little while ago is already like 70% of the functionality I need for this. And a while ago I made some god-awful music to play on this station, so that's already done. From there, I recorded the first voice acting lines for the game. 3, 3, 3, 4, 4. Then I threw that recording into 11 Labs, which is actually the first time I've ever used AI for something, which is neat.
4, 4, 5, 5. 5.
And then I filtered it to hell and back, chopped it up into little bits that'll be assembled in real time.
7, 7, 7, 6, 6.
It's not great. I 100% plan on redoing it at some point because I really couldn't get the cadence or delivery that I wanted because the voice changer just wouldn't have it. But once I get over my crippling fear of talking to women and can get an actual one to voice act here, I'll be clearing it all out, and I'll replace it with something a lot more interesting. Either way, I started off by making a system that'll play endlessly, generating a sequence of around 20 random numbers and then playing a song, then switching back to numbers.
5, 5, 5, 9, 6.
It felt a little bit flat, so I added some static as well and made the volume fluctuate a little bit.
2, 7, 8, 1.
After that, I added ways to override it and take control when need be.
God help us.
What this gets me is kind of a hybrid system, somewhere in the middle between scripted and procedural. For example, I put together a sequence that'll play out in the cabin. It'll always follow the same basic structure and flow of events, but the timing and details will be different every time. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The delivery of the voice lines definitely doesn't hit like I'd want it to, but everything else about it is exactly what I imagined. So besides all this, I've just been grinding away, detailing, decorating levels, making a bunch of small props, and some larger details, like this car.
I woke up in a new Bugatti.
I've also been having some fun getting creative with these door transitions. Then I had significantly less fun making these guys. Let me say, texturing these guys was not a pleasant endeavor, but I think they turned out perfect. Nice and icky, very good. I've also been fumbling away making more music tracks. Making music for this game has honestly become one of my favorite parts of development. I still suck, don't get me wrong, but I have a lot of fun with it. So out of the new tracks I've been screwing with, there's a couple that I'm really vibing with, and I think might end up making the cut into the final game. Firstly, this one here is called Cavernous Ambience, one of my favorites overall actually. Then there's Haunting Ambience. This one still needs work, but I'm liking the feel of it. Then there's also this one here, a little bit older, but still fairly new, Untitled. I needed something a bit more intense and urgent for a specific scene. I think it's fine for now, but it is a little bit generic, and I'm not sure how well it fits with the rest of the soundtrack. So yeah, that's pretty much where things are at now. Hopefully I'll have a proper prototype up and running very soon. More or less, the only things that are left to do are decorating the last couple of levels, a little bit of cleanup, and a couple of very simple features. Soon. I know I've been saying that for a while, this time I mean it. Swear to God, soon. So once again, thank you all very much for watching and supporting the project. I've got a couple of exciting things in the works and I can't wait to get this playtest prototype up and running. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to wishlist The Revanchist on Steam. I know you already have. If you haven't, why are you here? There's the door. I suggest you use it. And please let me know what your thoughts are on the project. And criticism is always encouraged. If it wasn't for guys on the internet letting 13-year-old me know just how much I actually sucked, I don't think I would be where I am today. If there's anything you're seeing that's just not sitting right, I'd love to hear it. A little negativity is good for you sometimes. A little bit of life advice for you. That one's free, take it home with you. And finally, I do want to make a quick video soon talking a little bit about the story of The Revanchist, as well as some more abstract, big picture topics about the game that I've never really found the chance to discuss. Won't be as edited as my normal videos, a little more chill, probably just talking over some gameplay footage of older versions of it or something like that. Yeah, I'll figure it out, but stay tuned for that. As always, thank you very much, and have a fantastic rest of your day.